on iPad, and she will be speaking through the iPad. She's here. She just came. Okay, so without further ado, if we could all rise for the flag salute. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. If the district clerk would please take the roll call.
Adam Smith.
Present.
Julie Epstein.
Here.
Emily Bays.
Present.
Adam Block.
Present.
Deborah Brooks is remote, as we know. Rachel Gilliard.
She's here.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Here.
Okay. Nanette Melkonian.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. At this time, I would like to make a motion to go into executive session to discuss the employment of particular persons and potential litigations. Do I have a second? Ms. Epstein, all in favor? 7-0. We're going to recess to executive session, and we'll be back at approximately 7:30. See you then.
Test, test.
I'd like to make a motion to reconvene in public session. Do we have a second? Ms. Bays, all in favor?
Deborah Sands, yes, 6-0.
6-0, because we're waiting for Dr. Block. If the district clerk could please take the roll call.
Adam Smith,
Present.
Julie Epstein. Here. Emily Bays,
Present.
Adam Block.
He's present.
He'll be here in a moment. He just stepped away.
Thank you.
Say present, Adam.
Deborah Brooks,
Here remotely.
Rachel Gilliard,
Here.
Nanette Melconian. Here. Thank you.
Okay. I'd like to make a motion for the adoption of the agenda for January 16th, 2024. Do I have a second? Adam Block, you're a second? Yep. All in favor? 7-0. So the agenda is adopted. I don't think, Adam, you've ever seconded something before. Well done. I want to remind everybody that Deborah Brooks is participating in tonight's meeting remotely. She is at 1 Slade Avenue in Baltimore, Maryland, where any members of the public are welcome to join her, if they would like to. Okay. So, I'm going to make some remarks, and I will hand things off to the superintendent. Good evening, and welcome to our first Board of Education meeting in 2024. I know it's a little late with our meeting having been postponed, but we hope all of our staff, students, and families had a wonderful and restful winter break. Speaking of winter break, I know the board and the community have been anxiously awaiting the 24-25 school calendar. We will be discussing it and hopefully approving it later this evening after our consent agenda. On a more serious note, we are aware that U.S. News and World Report's school rankings came out earlier this month, and that our elementary schools did not rank as highly as many would have expected or hoped, particularly as compared to our North Shore neighbors. I've asked Dr. Hines to address this in his superintendent's report today. It is important for us to understand the methodology of those rankings and identify areas of improvement if they are appropriate. We are very excited about the positive changes that have been taking place in our district, and we hope that over time they will lead to concrete and objective results. On a very exciting note, we would like to congratulate Sean Dooley, physical education educator at Sousa. He was awarded the Elementary Physical Education Teacher of the Year Award from the New York State Association for Health, Physical Education, Recreation, and Dance. And lastly, the Board of Education recently conducted its mid-year review of the superintendent. And as part of that process, we are currently considering the renewal of the superintendent's contract. While there's over a year left on the contract, it is customary in education to renew during the school year prior to the expiration of the contract, which is now. These conversations will be conducted in executive session as they relate to an individual's employment. Any amendment to the contract will likely appear on a consent agenda later this year in February or March. And finally, we have some very exciting news. We have some certificates to present to some of our students who were selected as Regeneron Scholar semifinalists. The competition is sponsored by the Society for Science and the Public, which founded the competition in 1942. It was sponsored by Intel, and before that, Westinghouse Corp. Our students are among 300 students named Regeneron STS Scholars and hope to be among 40 finalists named later this month. These scholars were selected based on their exceptional research skills, commitment to academics, innovative thinking, and promise as scientists. The students were selected from 2,162 U.S. and international entries, and they will each receive a $2,000 award, with an additional $2,000 going to the high school to support STEM education. We would also like to congratulate teachers Tina Gallagher, Nicole Lopinto, and George Mulbauer. And Dr. Hines, am I correct? We were the second highest number of semifinalists on Long Island. So we will call out the names now, and then I guess we can give everyone a collective round of applause. So you can just come up and receive your certificate. First, we have Benjamin Gordon. I think You can say it. Yeah, whatever you want to do. Yeah, okay. Yeah. Congratulations. Thank you. Nice job. Congratulations. Yeah. Sadie Muller.
Congratulations, well done.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Oh, I'm sorry, they're not in order. I should probably read the certificate too, not just the list. Thank you. Congratulations. Yep. Tej Parek. Okay. Harrison Roth. Congratulations.
Yes. Nice job.
And Hannah Rosenberg.
Nice job, man. Good job.
Can you pass this to Denise? Okay. And with that, I will pass it on to Dr. Hines for the report of the superintendent. I think you go right to Dr. Shields.
All right, good evening, everyone. Yeah, Dr. Shields for the enrollment report. Thank you.
Yes, good evening. Our last enrollment report was calculated on January 3rd. At that time, we had 5,329 students. That's 73 more students than we had at this point last year.
Thank you, Dr. Shields. So before I get into some of the things I'd like to talk about for our Regeneron students, you do not have to stay for this board meeting. Yeah, it's okay. Again, congratulations. We are so proud of you.
Nancy Gordon needs to stay, though. Nancy Gordon, you have to stay, though.
Yeah. Okay. So first, I want to apologize for not calling a snow day today. I was under immense pressure. I know, I'm sorry. No, really, when I drove in, I felt the eyeballs on my car when I was pulling up Campus Drive. In all seriousness, though, for those of you who don't know, there's a lot that goes into the calling of a snow day, believe it or not. You know, Officer Tony, Detective Tony, we're speaking all the time. I'm speaking to my colleagues at ridiculous hours of the night to see who's going to fold first. But in the end, it really does come down to student safety. And one thing we want to do as quickly as we can is communicate to our parents if and when, and certainly our staff, if we're doing that. So we take that very seriously. I just also want to announce that our pre-K and K registration is now open on our website. So for the parents who were anxiously awaiting, it's now up and running. I want to give a shout out to one of my colleagues, David Miller, who is retiring at the end of the year. Hi, Dave. Congratulations to you, sir. You have touched the lives of many, many students, but we'll talk about you a little bit more when we get toward the end of the year. But we want to acknowledge you, and it has been a true pleasure working with you. This other thing I wanted to talk about, we also have a new assistant principal, soon to be assistant principal at Weber Middle School, Brendan Lynch. Brendan, just give a wave. I think you and your wife are present today. I want to congratulate you in advance. You went through quite the rigorous process, especially if you passed the muster of this incredible principal that we have. She's highly selective, and so you should be very, very proud, and we look forward to working with you. I also, in closing, before I'll speak again in a few minutes, want to address what the president of the Board of Education brought up regarding the rankings of our elementary schools. A, I think it's important that we do acknowledge that. B, for those of you who know me, I think you know how I feel about ranking and sorting, especially elementary age students. But there is work to be done, though. For those of you who care, that data is 2 years old. However, what and I believe Dr. Feeney and his office truly believe is we have to compare ourselves to ourselves. And if we are showing growth, which we have been showing over time, that is what we will continue to focus on. And we will continue to focus on best practices. But I do appreciate it being brought to our attention. We will continue to work on that. As far as, well, actually, I'm going to hold off some other comments until I start talking during the presentation in just a few moments. So I'm going to turn it back over to the board president. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Hines. We are now going to move on to our first opportunity for the community to be heard. Just a reminder, each speaker is allowed 3 minutes to speak. We ask that you not speak about any individual students or personnel, and if you do so, we may have to ask you to stop speaking. So,
We didn't do the student report.
You know what? My apologies. I have two things we need to report out. My apologies. Ms. Manuel, if you wouldn't mind, the transportation, just giving us a quick update regarding TransFinder. Here comes the bus as far as where we are. And then after Ms. Manuel goes, I'm going to ask Dr. Feeney to just give us a brief update regarding the code of conduct, please. Thank you.
Hi, good evening. Just a quick update on our Stop Finder app. We had 2 Zoom meetings with the Guggenheim parents to really go over the app and discuss any kind of challenges that we've been having. We want to actually meet again with some of the parents just to find out what we could do better as we roll out to another elementary school. So hopefully within the next month or so, we'll be rolling out to another elementary school, and then after that, another elementary school. Are there any questions?
Thank you.
thank you very much.
Good evening. Our Board of Education Code of Conduct Committee has had one meeting where we started reviewing our Code of Conduct, looking at its different sections, talking about the process that would be followed. We then, just after, when we returned from the break, we had all members of the committee, along with a group of probably, I think, 11 other folks were trained the first 2 days of a 4-day, full-day training in restorative practices. That is the lens through which the board has asked us to review the code of conduct. The 24, 25 of us who were present at that 2-day training came away, I think, very enthusiastic and invigorated and very optimistic by what we're going to be able to do, both with the code as well as the culture here at Port. We have our follow-up 2 days of, 2 final days of training, day 3 and 4, on February 1st and 2nd.
Thank you, Dr. Feeney. And, you know, my apologies regarding community comments. We also have our student update for the board. And as always, we always appreciate what your perspective that you bring to us, and we look forward to this update. And Dr. Bear, thank you for working with our students to prepare this.
Good evening. My name is C.D. Pandy, and I'm a senior at Schreiber High School.
My name is Carlitos Rivas, and I am also a senior at Schreiber.
Since the last Board of Education meeting, we hosted our 2nd annual Choose Your Future Fair, where students learned about vocational and career opportunities available after high school. This is also a way for our students to connect with members of the community. Students in our ensembles perform for an audience of friends and family in our 2 winter concerts. AP drawing students held an opening reception to display their work before the break as well.
We hope you enjoyed the December break and had time to relax with those you love. Over the break, we hosted several successful athletic events at Schreiber, including basketball games and a wrestling tournament. Congratulations to the student athletes on each of those teams and to those who competed at other schools.
On Wednesday, the HSA and AGATE co-hosted a paddle with 6 alumni who discussed ways that their time at Schreiber helped them prepare for college, including time management, planning, collaboration, reading complex texts, and writing skills. The alum also highlighted areas that would help to better prepare students, including study skills and promoting independence, two important components of executive functioning. The college freshmen and sophomores also described the importance of electives and exploring passions in high school when discussing our rich course offerings. This topic actually segues into my selected topic. Tonight, I'd like to speak with you about academic rigor and my high school experience. I transferred to Paul D. Schreiber High School in 10th grade and immediately noticed a difference in the academic expectations in the coursework. I found that my classes were challenging but approachable. There were so many courses to choose from, more so than my prior school. Even with AP and honors courses that were comparable, I found my classes at Schreiber were more comprehensive and actually made students feel like a freshman in college. The broad range of offerings available at Schreiber prepare students for life beyond high school, provide opportunities to engage in challenging coursework, increase intellectual curiosity, and invite students to learn deeply rather than just to ace a test. We're excited as a student body to continue to review and expand the course offerings available each year. One thing to consider is how we can promote a school-life balance for students. Every student has varied commitments outside of the classroom. It's important to balance course load, club and extracurricular activities, athletics, employment, and family commitments. I've had teachers at Schreiber say, life is not just about school, it's also about learning how to have fun and have a life outside of school. We need to continue emphasizing the importance of managing workload and demonstrating care for students beyond the classroom.
Tonight, I would like to talk about the importance of the sense of belonging, including comfort with others, acceptance, and being part of the community. Building a positive and inclusive learning environment requires that students feel seen. Participation in our many clubs and extracurricular activities, school-wide events like the pep rally and community-wide events like Pride and Port is a great way to become a part of the school community. In the classroom, our teachers help to promote the sense of belonging through building relationships with students and modeling interpersonal interactions. Our district is building capacity to foster meaningful relationships with and among students through a recent initiative called Restorative Practice. This approach promotes open dialogue, builds communities, and empowers those involved to resolve conflicts constructively. Restorative practice in schools foster a culture of empathy and accountability, encouraging the students to understand the impact of their actions and form meaningful relationships. While this is a long process to fully implement throughout the high school and the district, these workshops will jumpstart the important work. We'll be able to monitor our progress to build a sense of belonging through future administrations and the Panorama Survey.
Dr. Hines, Mr. Smith, and the entire Board of Education, thank you for the opportunity to share my perspectives with you tonight.
Thank you for inviting us to speak with you about the selected topics and contribute a positive school community. Thank you.
And thank you very much to CD and Carlos. We always appreciate to hear the student perspective, and it's always very informative. With that, we will now go to community comments. Would somebody put this back on the podium? Just so So if anybody else wants to sign up, please feel free to sign up while others are speaking. We first have Heather Simon Clark from Transition Town, Port Washington. I'm sorry. That was signed up for both lines, correct?
Correct.
I got that right? Okay, great.
Thank you. Thanks. Good evening, Dr. Hines and the members of the school board. Yes, I'm Heather Simon Clark. I'm board member of Transition Town, Port Washington, and I'm returning here tonight to thank you for your work in implementing and supporting a more sustainable, health-conscious, and environmentally responsible approach within our schools. We're so relieved and grateful that the district will be including a recycling contract for all of our schools in the budget for next school year. We're also very thankful to have found willing partners and principals and food service providers, as well as groundskeeping staff in making some essential transitions, like the move toward eliminating single-use plastics in our schools, and especially in our cafeterias. These good works have garnered an enormous amount of positive attention for Port Washington and our schools. In the last few months since Plastic Free Lunch Day, an article was published in Newsday about our amazing student activists, an author as well as a filmmaker who were each inspired by our students' goals and achievements have reached out and begun documenting these accomplishments. And perhaps most exciting, other districts on Long Island have been reaching out to us in the hopes that they can follow in our district's footsteps. As a team, our community, students, and school district can lead our whole region in the right direction. But there is still an enormous amount of work to do, and your continued support will be needed to stay the course. We have only just embarked upon this path. We need to carefully select the best recycling process available and educate our staff and students to ensure its success, and to discuss other very necessary next steps and why they are so important. I'm going to pass this along to a few of our many youth activists. Many thanks again to all of you for continuing to work with us to safeguard our students' health and the health of the world they'll inherit. Thanks.
Hello all. We represent the Transition Town, Port Washington youth activists. We are dedicated and determined students from Schreiber and Weber, and we range from grades 6 to grades 11. We are here today to speak on an issue that affects us all. On issues that affect us all. Climate change, pollution, rising sea levels, and insane amounts of waste are all challenges we and our future generations will face. Today, we, the students of this school district, are here to make a change. We are here to ask you to address the issue of plastic waste in our schools.
Would the speakers just mind stating your name for the record before you go? Thank you.
My name is Isaac Raubard.
My name is Layla Kai. Despite participating in Plastic Free Lunch Day and pledging to phase out single-use plastics in the cafeteria, the Port Washington School District is still actively using single-use plastics in all school cafeterias and teachers' lounges. These single-use plastics are designed to be thrown out and are incredibly wasteful. Our schools go through thousands of these single-use utensils and containers every single day. Not only are these single-use plastics wasteful, they are also dangerous to humans. Plastics made from petroleum and other harmful materials, which contain microplastics. Microplastics are microscopic size fragments of plastic that occur when plastics break down. Microplastics are extremely harmful to humans. Microplastics are flowing through our bodies, in our hearts, and are even found in the human placenta. Microplastics have properties linked to cancers and other deadly diseases. This single-use lifestyle is not the way our schools should be operating. Today, we are here to bring a sustainable solution to this problem.
My name is Daniel Rouse. There's a simple solution to single-use plastics, non-plastic reusables. How can we implement reusables in our school district? By bringing reusable utensils and containers to our schools. These reusables are infinitely better for the environment and better on the district's budget. Now you're probably asking, how will the school manage reusables? The solution is simple. The school district needs to implement a dishwashing system into every cafeteria kitchen. Multiple case studies are showing that after 22 months of dishwasher use, it will pay for itself. Not only will dishwasher use be invested back into the school district, it will also be invested in people. By employing people to manage dishwashing, the school district can create jobs that support our local community instead of supporting single-use plastics. Plastic-free restaurants, an organization dedicated to eliminating single-use plastics, is committed to helping the district with subsidy funds retroactively. The district can submit invoices from this school year for the single-use plastic used and reusable foodware replacements via their subsidy application page, as well as apply for funding to replace the remaining single-use items the district is still using.
Not only is replacing single-use plastic foodware the right thing to do for our students' health and the environment, but it will save the district money. We hope that the district will not only transition off of single-use plastic foodware this year, but will pilot a more permanent, cost-effective, and healthy solution by installing a dishwashing system in the high school cafeteria. With that, we leave you with our final question. Will you please include this in the district's 2024 to 2025 budget?
Thank you very much. Beth Javelin.
Hello, I'm Beth Javelin representing APSA. Dr. Ferrante and Kevin Scully, the co-presidents of APSA, asked me to say a few words on behalf of them. So they, along with the rest of APSA, would like to welcome Brendan Lynch as the new AP at Weber and looking forward to having him be part of the APSA family. So welcome to the community.
I'm just slipping this in here.
Denise Paredes.
Good evening. Denise Paredes. I'm the SUSA HSA Junior Co-President. I'm here tonight, however, making this comment on my own behalf, speaking as a community member, mom of 4, and parent in the district schools for over 10 years. As you are aware, at the October 17th Board of Education meeting, the board discussed the planned revision of Board of Education Policy Number 5144.1, also known as the Student Code of Conduct. In New York State, one of the few specifically enumerated statutory responsibilities of an elected board member is creating board policy. Yet, despite statutory mandate and the specific request of at least one board trustee during that evening's discussion, there is currently no board member sitting on this committee. It begs the question, why? In the interest of transparency, the community must be made aware of the reasons for completely outsourcing this responsibility. While it's valuable and indeed required to include a wide range of voices for input into this policy, a committee charged with revising board policy without board representation seems an unreasonable abdication of responsibility. Additionally, during that same discussion, the board agreed upon the members it wanted to sit on the policy revision committee. After that discussion, the board specifically directed the administration to select parent volunteers, one from elementary and one from the secondary level. Ultimately, the administration did not heed that specific directive, choosing instead both parents from the secondary level. This begs the question yet again, why? Does the Board of Education have any real input into the membership on the committee revising its own policy? While the administration has stated that both selected parents have had children in elementary school at some point in the past, however distant, according to the committee list on the district website, neither currently has a child in elementary as directed. In this post-pandemic age of pervasive group chats, including elementary school children, cyberbullying, the many pitfalls of social media, and the list goes on, it is important to include one elementary parent to give input into the policy document that sets expectations regarding behavior. As we are all keenly aware, elementary school students have exhibited behaviors that impede learning at younger and younger ages. Eliminating the voice of a current elementary school parent effectively silences the perspective of parents of thousands of Port Washington students. I implore the administrators to follow the original direction of the board and add an elementary school parent or guardian to the committee to round out the parent view with one representative at elementary, one at middle, and one at the high school level. So my questions for an answer at the next board meeting are, why is there no board member, and why is there no K to 5 parent or guardian on the committee revising the board policy 5144.1? Thanks.
There you go.
Thank you. Are there any further speakers? No? Okay. Thank you to all the speakers who spoke. Moving on, we are up to our discussion item. So, Dr. Hines, I'm going to hand this off to you. Yeah, right. Oh. Okay.
Good evening, everyone. So, in an effort to really move into the budget process, which, as most of you know who have been around schools for a while, we started very early in November to start having discussions about what that entails. I just want to be very clear, we are still incredibly early in this budget process. We're working with our principals, working with our directors regarding their budgets. And at this point, this is where we are at this moment. The purpose of this conversation or discussion is to highlight some of the potential expenditures for next year's budget. And as many of us know, we've had two different audits. One that took place at the tail end of last year in special education, and one that was really finalized too with security. And we've outlined, at least from a security standpoint, which I'll get to in a few minutes, some of the things we will be potentially looking at. But I'm going to start with special education. And we will be having a conversation in relation to what that special education audit had presented to us. But one of them had to do with the potential restructuring of administration in PPS. And with that, the recommendation was to consider adding an assistant director. And as you can see, the potential expenditure of a salary of $130,000 plus benefits. And that new structure would really focus on highly skilled individual that focuses on pre-K through second grade, which there are a lot of CPSE, I want to say challenges, that someone needs to be highly skilled in that particular area, which is vastly different than someone's expertise in 3 through 8, grades 3 through 8, which are the, as many of us know, the New York State assessment years for ELA and for math. Also science, can't forget about science as well. And then as students look to enter and then exit and transition out of high school, a different set of skill sets for the secondary level, which is 9 through 12. So that was what our cabinet began to discuss right now. And so that's something that we will be discussing certainly a lot more in the very near future. When it comes to curriculum instruction and assessment, again, certainly for the board, you know, as I'm moving, I can't believe this, at the end of, almost at the tail end of my 5th year here, 5 years ago, for the most part, the office consisted of an assistant superintendent for curriculum instruction and assessment. To the board's credit, it certainly expanded that palette as far as responsibilities and has taken a deeper dive into the wants and needs of our students and certainly our staff, taking that very seriously. Now in working with Dr. Feeney, had the pleasure of working with him for the past year and a half, we're looking to take that potentially to the next level as far as suggestions for instructional coaches at the elementary level in both ELA and math. And anticipated costs for the 4 instructional coaches would look at $240,000 plus benefits. Also on top of that, I've made no secret, and I think it's been asked by even some community members to have directors that specifically target content areas, ELA and social studies, which would consist of humanities and of course math and science for STEM, and to have dedicated directors working with teachers and working with the curriculum office as far as making sure, focusing on consistency and making sure teachers get what they need, oversight, administrative responsibilities, so on and so forth. So a director, each director would cost $160,000 plus benefits, and that's for 2 directors. The last potential request, and again I want to highlight these are some of the things that we're considering. This though has been taking place for quite some time as far as the new math program for K through 6. And in order to fully implement and support the program, because right now they're being, let's say, beta tested in classrooms right now, it really varies as far as what that would entail as far as a price point, but it could range anywhere between $125,000 and $180,000. So if we're looking at special education, curriculum and instruction, and assessment, those are some of the things that we are looking to make a recommendation to the board. But again, I want to be very clear, we're very early in that process because there are other things that principals and directors will be asking for as well. Please move on to the next slide. Sorry, I don't think it's working. Thank you. Okay. So as I mentioned earlier, security audit that took place, there are a host of things that the audit made some recommendations for, most notably the increase in security guards. And I think many of us know that our elementary schools had 1 guard, and even Weber up until this year had 1 guard. And so we're looking to hopefully move in a different direction where we are looking at the addition of 6 guards and having a 2nd guard added at each elementary school. And that would be positioned when parents and community members enter the building. And additionally, we're looking for a night guard at Weber. And looking at those anticipated costs, that would we're looking at a price point of around $220,000. That's where we are right now in relation to security. As far as facilities is concerned, we're looking at a new playground structure at Sousa, and after working and speaking with Mr. Graham, we're looking at that price point of $125,000 for that. And then the last slide is really more of a TBD, but I just wanted to put it out there for the board to consider, and certainly for the public to know as well, the community. We have several task forces that have been meeting over the past several months, and with that, in the spring, they will make some recommendations to me, and I'll sift through that, cull through some of those potential recommendations that would have, I'm thinking, some price points as well. I do not know what those recommendations would be, but I think it's a good opportunity to at least, share this information with the board and community. That's something we would strongly consider as well. So that's what we have, and I know that the board has questions, and understandably so, and I'll certainly answer as many as I can, as well as the cabinet as well. So I turn it back over to you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Hines. So I think we're going to open up the questions. Do you want to go first, Emily, it looks like? Why don't you go first?
Thank you. I have a couple of questions. The first question that actually stands out and I understand that this is preliminary, but with regards to facilities and the new playground structure at Sousa, do I not remember this correctly, but do we not have money set aside for every school? We did that, I believe, last year, right? So how is this, is this part, is that what are you saying that we're going to take the earmarked money that we have set aside and give it to Sousa this year? Because it doesn't seem like a new expenditure. It was in our budget and we kind of committed to it.
I just want to, yes, and that's all accurate. I just want to make sure that there's a reason why that ask is there. The playground committee, as many of you know, took place, and there's a whole schedule as far as which playgrounds would be replenished. When looking at the playgrounds, we do have some older equipment in some other schools as well. So I want to put the price point out there because playgrounds are not cheap at all, especially some of the larger ones that we have. We have some, I believe, that are due to expire very soon because of the warranty or the lack thereof, and where the parts aren't being made. I just wanted to bring it to the board's attention that these expenditures are pretty significant.
Thank you, I appreciate that. Mr. Graham actually did talk about the facilities and about the playgrounds as part of our building walkthroughs and as part of some of the budget conversations we had about facilities. So I appreciate that. And again, knowing that this is very preliminary, I am going, and knowing that today the governor did release the state aid funds, and it doesn't, again, her preliminary numbers, and I know that that's not final, but it didn't seem as if Port Washington was getting an increase in funding. So these are all great things to be adding. I'm anticipating, and I guess it's more kind of a statement than maybe a question, but that you'll prioritize, with your team will prioritize your asks when we're finally going through the entire budget presentations, right? And whatever is a priority or a recommendation will come through.
That is correct, yeah. I mean, as of right now, since you mentioned the state aid fund, yeah, we are just relatively flat and or a slight decrease.
Decrease,
right now.
we had 100 and something thousand
I think
decrease,
127.
right? Yeah, okay, thank you.
Adam, do you have any questions? I'll just run down the line. So,
sure. So I guess the question that I have is related to the K through 6 math program. It's not clear to me why whether there is evidence of a benefit of the brand new math program that just came out over an old math program. And it seems to me not only would there need to be benefits, but there would need to be enormous benefits because there's enormous transition costs to teach a whole swath of teachers how to teach in a completely different way. And so I'd like to see a little bit of evidence of benefits of this new math program. It feels like we switch math programs every few years, and I'm not clear on what the benefits are.
Thank you.
do you want Dr. Fee to respond to that? We don't have to now, but.
Thank you. I think that's a fair question, of course. We've had our current mathematics program. This is our 9th year. So there's been a level of stability in this program. The work that's being done through our PGCD committee with teachers and administrators has been comprehensive in terms of reviewing this program and looking for possible alternatives. Some of the problems, without getting into too much detail, but some of the problems with the current program include how they align to standards, the order in which some of the materials taught, the approach, and teachers. And I think as a district, we have struggled to provide the support needed, to your point. So I'm actually excited, and I've been very impressed with the process that the committee has gone through to review the program and look at these two new possible programs. We're piloting programs, I think, in 38 different classrooms, split evenly between these two programs. And we've had professional development, we've had site visits, and the implementation of a new program I'm excited about because it does provide an opportunity for training. And that's the big piece, right? The curriculum, the assessment, it's that instructional piece that will have the greatest impact. So using this as a way to provide all of our teachers, all of our K-6 teachers with a approach to teaching, I think will be, a new approach to teaching will be beneficial. The cost that's issued right there that was Dr. Hines put up on the presentation is actually not all that much above what we're paying right now at an annual basis for the online access as well as some of the consumables. There will be an implementation cost, there will be professional development cost, but we're long overdue in providing the necessary professional development to our K-6 teachers for the mathematics program.
So in the pilots, do we see performance on exams or some other metric that is better than we see in the other classrooms?
Part of what we are looking at in terms of assessing the teachers. For some of the pilots, they have their own separate assessments. All of the kids are still taking the NWEA as they're going through these pilots. Teachers are using their own in-class assessments to see how things stack up. That's part of the assessment process.
So I think that I would certainly want to see some evidence that if we're going to engage in a new program, that there's actually like classroom improvements, because the transition costs seem like they're going to be relatively big and there's a relatively large ask.
Right.
For it.
Those are big, the number that's listed there, and you're absolutely right. I think part of the presentation to the Board of Education as we select the program would be how that particular program performed with the 17, 18, 19 pilot teachers who used it. And it's all about, the student performance, how they do with the program, as well as the teacher's ability to do it. That 125 to 180 figure is, right now we're spending, as I think I mentioned, upwards of $106,000 on our baseline program with no PD.
Okay, and last question, are there bar models being taught still?
Nobody knows that. You're dating yourself.
In terms of the standards, and that's another piece of...
My kids are absolutely taught bar models.
That is the new method.
So if it's in the state standards, because that's part of the work we've been doing this year with all of our teachers, aligning the standards, and we'll have a consistent set of standards that will be taught and assessed across all of our schools.
All right, thank you.
And Dr. Feeney, I'll ask my question while you're standing there. And I think Rachel does. Can you talk a little bit more about what these instructional coaches are, and kind of like a day in the life of an instructional coach?
If you're not familiar with it, the term can seem a little funny. Now, they're not going to be supervised by our athletics department. These are teaching positions that are really master teachers, and they will work with their colleagues in the classrooms to provide professional development support for the teachers, to provide modeling, instructional modeling. If teachers are wondering how they can take a unit and use either heterogeneous grouping to provide the instruction to their class, this is where the instructional coaches can do it. Can help provide that support. They can provide coverage in a classroom if the teacher wants to go see and work with another colleague as well. So it is, consider it a master teacher who is an expertise in this area. We will have a new mathematics program, K-6. We also have been doing some really deep and profound work in elementary ELA, elementary literacy, and the teachers. We've received some outside professional support for them and our foundations and Hegarty program, but that has to be an ongoing and sustainable activity. I think that Port does not lack talented teachers. What we have struggled with, I think, based on my understanding of the past, is providing sustained, regular support for those teachers in terms of professional development. Districts, this is a very common model in districts that have this model of instructional coaches. The student results speak for themselves.
And in terms of these coaches, is there like a specific skill set that each coach would have? Like where do you find them?
We need experts in the mathematics and others experts in literacy. And, we have master teachers in our district. So these aren't necessarily going to be new folks coming in from the outside. They might be classroom teachers who might be interested in this position. And if that's the case, those classroom teachers become our instructional coaches if they are interested, and we then hire classroom teachers to take those classes over.
Got it. Okay, thank you. Yeah, I think Rachel also had one for, yeah, but sure, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. Okay.
I don't mean, I'm going to go back to Rachel, but so were you saying that we're going to have 2 ELA and 2 math to get to the 4?
Yeah, I wish I could say that. That is what I'm proposing. If the board agrees, that's what that's what I would ask you to agree to, yes.
So all elementary level?
Correct.
Okay.
Ms. Gilliar, go ahead.
I have a bunch. I guess I'll go through. First, on the new math curriculum, one of the things that parents over the years have expressed concern about, and I think probably students themselves have expressed maybe in different words than adults would express, is our current math curriculum for elementary really doesn't have any built-in differentiation among students. So there's no built-in way that pushes teachers to push students who can do more to do more. It's really left to the teachers on an individual basis, and some of them are able to differentiate. But I think it's something our parents really would like to see, that we're challenging our students at the level they can handle in mathematics. Would the new mathematics curriculum give teachers more supports and more help to do that kind of thing?
So both of the existing pilot programs have a wide range of supports for providing that sort of differentiated instruction, both for the stronger students as well as those who are struggling, as well as those who do not speak English as their first language.
That's great, thank you. That's wonderful to hear. A couple other questions. I'm looking at the recommendations for curriculum. I just want to add a little bit of like a historical perspective on it, which is, I think we all should be aware, our curriculum, administration was really just our assistant superintendent for curriculum for many, many, many years here. And it was a common discussion that other districts have directors, other districts have this, other districts have that, and we just had this one assistant superintendent doing everything. And we've been expanding this department over the last couple of years, I think rightly, right? We needed more supports. There are different things that you can do. You can be thinking critically about the education you're giving when you have more than one person. Obviously, you have more man or woman hours to look at everything. So I'm in support of that overall. As we have like a more detailed conversation about this, I'd like to understand a little bit what our goal is in terms of what this department looks like down the line. Is this part of the additional building of it? Is this the final picture of what it would look like along with the staff that we have in it already? It's not really a question for today. It's for down the line.
Excellent. Thank you.
And then the other piece is for the instructional coaches, it seems like it has implications for PD. Would the cost of these coaches be offset with any savings in other ways?
It would. I will say we've spent a notable amount of money on professional development. I think it has been long overdue. I think the instructional coaches is the beginnings of an appropriate and hopefully a sustained investment in ongoing professional development for our staff. And it would offset those one-time expenses, and it's going to also be, it would be more efficient. because it is not just, okay, let's get together on, Wednesday, have this professional development, but you've got someone who'll be able to check in, follow through, provide the support.
Would this also decrease the amount of class time teachers miss for professional development?
You'd be pushing people in, correct.
Okay. And I do know we've upped our professional development tremendously over the last few years from almost nothing for a period of time, and that our teachers really want it. So I appreciate that.
And if I can, this is actually a model we've started where we're pushing in. We have Dr. Borsella, who's gone into classrooms, worked with teachers, pushed in. Ms. Diaz is doing the same thing. So we're doing this push-in model to have a sustained professional development experience for our faculty.
I'm looking forward to hearing the more detailed version of what all of this will look like as we go on. But I think it's important to note for the public, I think sometimes this is a lot of money, right? You add these numbers up.
Yes.
And I think that sometimes the immediate reaction is, wait a second, why are we spending money on this instead of students?
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's important to note the reason you're recommending all of this is because this is spending money on students. We're pushing towards creating a better and better education, and this is how we get there.
Correct.
Thank you.
Ms. Malconian?
Just a very maybe it's not a minor detail, but the conversation about the push-in and teachers missing less classroom time, can I take it a step further and say that that is a cost savings in terms of substitute cost?
Oh, that's a good point. In addition to, offsetting the cost of the professional development itself, it's that the substitutes who would need to cover classes, which are often done, sometimes even if they don't cost something, they might be taken from within the school, which takes away from somebody else. So it allows folks to do the job that they are hired and needed to do on a more regular basis.
Well, I'm a fan of PD, so thank you.
Me too.
Okay, Dr. Block.
So can you explain a little bit about what the push-in actually looks like? It sounds like we've already experienced this with Ms. Diaz and Dr. Borsella. Like, what does that actually look like? And I know what push-in looks like. I want to know, are they teaching a lesson?
So when we brought in decodables, for example, at the elementary level, a lot of teachers had not had experience using decodable books, how they could be used, how they could be implemented. Dr. Borsella sent out an email saying, hey, I'm available, we can do this. And, people asked her, hey, come in, I'd love to meet with you. She set up time to work with the teachers during their free time on how they could implement these decodables. So you're getting at both a broad level, here's how you can use them, but a more granular level in your classroom, here's what it could look like. Ms. Diaz is pushing in to work with individual teams of teachers to look at data, analyze data, to see how, scores, whether it's a NWEA report or from the data warehouse, there are 3 through 8 scores, how both class scores and individual student scores and different kinds of reports can be used to improve instruction, which ultimately helps the students. So that's part of what we've pushed in to do.
Thank you.
Do you want? Yeah, Ms. Epstein and then Ms. Bass. And then we'll.
Okay. Dr. Feeney, all the questions that I have been asked, so I don't have a question for you. I think I have a question for Dr. Hines.
I think it's due time that he's back up here.
Don't you think so? Yes.
Indeed.
But thank
Dr.
you for
Hines.
those questions and thank you for all of that information. Dr. Hines, I know that this is, again, the beginning process, and these are some of the bigger asks that we're looking at, but you outlined your task forces at the end of this and talking about recommendations in the spring, which I think will fall possibly after budget season. One of your recommendations or one of your task forces is mental health, which, of course, if any of us listened to anything about the budget today from Governor Hochul or any of the news up till then, and even conversations that we've had in the past, dollars being committed to mental health. Although the task force will be making recommendations in the spring, do you foresee in upcoming budget discussions that we are looking to spend any monies or implement any of the suggested plans or look at any of the suggested plans that are being proposed by the state in utilizing them?
So in short, yes. And as far as the process is concerned for any of these task forces, I'm going to sit down with Ms. Manuel to earmark a certain amount. And then once I find out what those recommendations are, slide them in as appropriate as far as whatever we budgeted for.
Oh, that was very helpful. Thank you. Oh, sure.
Ms. Pays?
Ms. Epstein asked my question, but the fact that Dr. Hines just said slide them in, I don't know if you were able to see my eyebrows go up.
I'm just thinking of the morning commute for our educators tomorrow because in all seriousness, I'm on a text chain with all these superintendents who are looking at certain delays here and there. So I'm hearing
Read
questions.
Newsday already put it out.
Oh, I'm very happy for Newsday. That's great. But it's in all seriousness, this is something, that's happening in real time as we're having this discussion. So I probably substituted a word for slide.
Great. Okay, well, we're going to move on. Thank you very much.
Okay,
This
thank
was
you.
very informative, and we look forward to seeing how these asks evolve into reality over the next few months. So we're going to move on to the approval of the minutes. We have a bunch today. So I'm going to make a motion to approve the following minutes. We have the 10/30/2023 Curriculum Committee meeting, the 11/17/23 Policy and Personnel Committee meeting, the 12/4/23 Budget and Facilities meeting, the 12/5/23 BOE meeting, and the 12/15/23 joint BOE work session. Is there a second? That's two. Wow, Dr. Block?
Deb's also second.
Okay. We have a lot of seconds, but we'll take Dr. Block for the minutes to approve next time. All in favor? 7-0. The minutes are approved. We're moving right along to item 12, which is our committee reports, starting with, this might be difficult over the iPad, but Deborah for policy and personnel.
Okay, I'll do my best.
Let's
Hold on.
we'll try to make it brief, Deb, because it's very hard for us to
Okay.
hear.
Try Deb. I put the microphone there.
Okay, so we had the joint committee meeting with budget and facilities last month, and I just wanted to bring to everybody's attention the draft of the facilities policy that I asked be included in the file attachments. And very quickly, this is something that's on for our first read tonight. If there are any changes, we have a policy and personnel committee meeting this Friday at 10:30. So this policy can be brought back immediately on Friday for those revisions and comments, or we can bring it back in the February meeting. But I just wanted to say that the committee worked hard to synthesize what Brian Graham presented to the committee with the comments made at the joint work session back in December. And there are just three, I guess, hanging issues that I would bring to everybody's attention. So I guess on the first page, there's a line that was added that says students of the Port Washington Union Free School District are exempt from the permit requirement. I don't know if that needs to be fleshed out. It was a comment, actually something that I suggested we say, but I don't know if we want to say if the students are performing an instructional function as opposed to just recreational, to just think about that. Also, we want to be sure we have our exhibit 1 of examples of accepted uses. That's something that will come from administration, pulling from, I know Mr. Graham said he would put something like that together for us. And then on the second page, under fees, there had been a discussion about the fact that facilities, use fees, and roster fees would be assessed in accordance with accompanying regulations. And to actually say that up front in the policy, so that the public reading the policy hopefully would know that those things would be within regulation. And then the following sentence, similarly about cancellation fees, to let the public know up front in the policy that cancellation fees might apply in accordance with regulations. So those are the three things that, oh, I'm sorry, there was one more. And in the bulleted section about being exempt from fees, the second to last bullet talks about charging applicable custodial and/or maintenance fees. And I asked the question, what about security fee? Because we had talked about that in the joint work session. So you all can discuss that tonight, or you can send your comments to be discussed at the committee meeting. Fine with me. And then as far as the next meeting again is just the personnel and the policy and personnel committee meeting this Friday, 10:30 at the KAM Annex.
Got it. Yeah. I would propose, unless others disagree, that anyone who has comments on those, bring them to the Policy and Personnel Committee. I don't think we should get into that conversation tonight, but everybody should think about their thoughts on that today and either forward your thoughts to Ms. Brooks or appear in person. Go ahead, Ms. Epstein.
So I have a question. Deb, do you know, is Mr. Graham gonna have ready for your meeting on the 19th, the fee structure and some of those other asks that we had there?
Maybe Dr. Shields does, because those fees, et cetera, are a budget issue. And
You won't, okay.
I know
Wouldn't those be part of the regulation?
how
That would come after.
So usually, didn't we discuss that being part of regulation? And
It's going to be part of the regulation. I just didn't know, when we talk about cancellation fees, and we were discussing kind of what was going to be the firmed up set fees, I don't know if it's worth the time to have the discussion and go into the details of the policy if we don't have all of the facts and figures in front of us. Does that make sense, or does it not matter?
I don't think it matters.
Okay,
I
never mind.
think if all those things are under regulation, the policy is just the general
aspect of it.
Aspect, and then regulation really goes separate.
All right, that's
In my
fine.
opinion.
But budget may discuss that.
If budget, yeah.
Okay, never mind then. Okay, thank you.
the policy itself reflected the comments that were made. So not necessarily the details of what the fees would entail, but just that there would be those fees and to be sure to look for them in regulation. Same with the security fee and the maintenance fee and the custodial fee, that type of thing.
Thank you, Deb.
Great. Okay. Ms. Melconi in curriculum? I'm sorry, Ms. Bays, budget and facilities.
Thank you. Budget and Facilities met. Our next meeting, by the way, is on February 12th. The only recommendation is that at our January 11th meeting, we had a presentation from Renew, which is, I believe all the board members have gotten a copy of the presentation that they made. Based on the discussions that we had with them, we would like for Renew to attend either our April 2nd or April 16th meeting to make a presentation to the board for the board's approval before we actually sign for the contracts with Renew. So that was...
My only question was, is there a reason we wouldn't do it sooner? Do they have more work to do?
Yes,
Okay.
they're not ready.
Okay.
They're in the process of collecting all of the data, or the...
Okay, so we'll coordinate with you to get that on the calendar. No one has objections.
So we told Renew at the meeting that that we had 2 meetings scheduled for in April, and they would have to be ready for either the 2nd or the 16th, and as we got closer, we would let them know what date it was.
That's great.
Our next meeting, did I say that already, is February 12th at 9 a.m. And we anticipate that our architect will be at that meeting to discuss with us his reports, give us his reports, and of course, as we get to February 12th, we will definitely be discussing more budgetary and the budget and and as we get into our board meetings, we'll be discussing budget more.
Thank you very much. Very much looking forward to that Renew presentation. Ms. Melconian, Curriculum Committee.
Thank you. We met in December on the 11th, and we had our second version of a full department review with health and physical education. We discussed the fact that the departments that we chose to do reviews for kind of developed around departments that have directors, because then there's actually somebody that's overseeing an entire department and can really give a very comprehensive review of the content of that department. So with that said, we were treated to a wonderful conversation by our athletic director, and I made him a doctor, even though he's not a doctor. I introduced him as a doctor. So one of the things that we're liking about this approach is talking about where the department wants to go and what the future goals are. So part of you can see the entire presentation on the website, but there were some really big plans for where our athletic director would like to take the department. Some are expensive, some are less expensive. So if you're interested, please go to the website to learn more about that. I won't go into all of those details. They're really budgetary asks. And our next meeting is January 26th, and we will be discussing the research program in Port Washington at 10:30 a.m. in the CAM Annex.
Great. Thank you very much, Ms. Melkonian. Audit, Ms. Epstein.
Yes, our meeting is scheduled for tomorrow in the CAM Annex at 9 a.m. And we are having a presentation from our internal claims auditor and also to update on the facility use corrective action plan, which is that the policy is being done, so.
Great.
I know,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, in case anybody is wondering where the superintendent went, he is outside speaking to others about possible delays tomorrow morning. It looks like about 90 school districts on Long Island have delayed openings. None around here, but we might. So, emergency preparedness will not be meeting, does not have anything scheduled, probably will not meet until the end of the year.
Oh, can I just say that in the event that there is a delay, the 9 a.m. audit committee will be rescheduled, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so we're going to move on to our consent agenda now. I do have a couple of notes that I want to make, but I'm going to make them after the approval. So if I'm going to make a motion to approve items 13.1.1 through 13.6.2. Is there a second?
Deb, give it to Deb.
Deb will be the second. All in favor? I'm doing that separate. Yep. Okay. So that votes passes 7-0. So first I want to thank our donors, and we have quite a few on this list. The South Salem HSA for their donation towards the partial funding of the Alvin Ailey residency. Again, the South Salem HSA for partial funding of the National Circus. The Black Bud Giving Fund for Sousa trips and student funds twice. The Guggenheim HSA for the purchase of a Chromebox, and the Guggenheim HSA to purchase a software license. The Schreiber HSA for a donation to Schreiber student clubs. The Viking Sports Foundation for a donation for boys basketball uniforms. The Shatino family for TV and protective case for the Schreiber High School wrestling room. The Lagiza family for a 16-foot competition balance beam for varsity gymnastics. Chester's Towing for a tire for weight room for physical education classes. That was a very expensive tire at $800. The Sousa HSA for a music podium. The Guggenheim HSA, as well as the Daily HSA, the Sousa HSA, the Manor Haven PTA, the South Salem HSA, the Schreiber HSA, the Weber HSA, and the Salem HSA for the ENL Multicultural Night. The Salem HSA for the partial funding of the 5th grade end-of-year trip to Adventureland, and the Weber HSA for funds to support the yoga program for Blue 8, Story Jumpers program for Miles students, and the VR program for ENL students. And we thank you to all of our generous donors. That was a lot this time. I also want to make a special particular note to two individuals that are present today. One is Mr. David Miller, who is retiring as a high school assistant principal.
Congratulations.
Yeah. And not that Dave has been counting down those days. You stopped counting? I'm sure you will. And we have as well Brendan Lynch, who is going to be our new middle school assistant principal. Congratulations, Brendan. We're very much looking forward to you starting. Okay. So we're going to move on to our calendar. Oh, sorry, the calendar was later. Okay. We're going to move on to our policy. So we have 14.1, the chain of command policy, chain of communication policy. So I'd like to make a motion to approve the following policies for adoption. Policy 1400, which is the chain of communication and policy, this is not written right, the chain of communication and policy, and 4321.12, which is the famous timeout and physical restraint policy. Is there a second? Ms. Bays, all in favor? 7-0. So we have finally passed our, in accordance with the law, our timeout policy, and we now have a very much updated chain of communication policy. So thank you to everyone who worked very hard on that.
The policy for adoption.
Yeah, I'm getting up to it. Okay, so we have for first read, policy 1500, which is the public school use of school facilities, which is one that was just discussed. So we will be bringing those comments back to the policy committee. Thank you. It takes me a second with my double-sided pages to catch up. You guys are turning pages while I'm still talking. I know, but I like to read it as well. Okay, so Dr. Hines was going to speak to us about the calendar, and he has stepped out. So, yeah, Dave, can you see if Dr. Hines is he standing out there? How much do you need? I might have a shiny penny.
I haven't answered that, but I'll give it myself.
Just in time. We were ready to speak about the calendar. We were ready to speak about the calendar, if you're ready for it.
Did you want to take it from there?
Yeah. I assume you want to take that from here and not from there? Okay. So, Dr. Hines, we have a calendar for the 24-25 school year, which is on for approval. Obviously, I think this calendar has been long awaited due to the way the holidays are falling. Many in the community were looking forward to a full 2-week winter break in December. And we understand that that's something that just isn't possible, and we were hoping that you could help the board, because many of the board trustees also had asked that question as to how it landed that way, as well as some community members. So we were hoping that you could explain that for the benefit of the board, and maybe if we need to ask any questions before we put it up for approval.
Flip that completely over.
And you have it if you need it.
All the way to the very
Yeah.
back.
Thank you.
All right. Well, first of all, I want to thank everyone who was involved in creating the calendar. I think it's safe to say aesthetically, it looks a lot nicer. I think it's easier to read. And I think most notably, we tried to the best of our ability, take into account all the religious holidays and the diversity that's part of our school district. And that really what came into the conversation and part of the formula to make sure that we celebrated all of those particular holidays, and then working with our team, which consists of, Dr. Feeney, certainly we have Regina and some teachers, and we have administrators as well. And in the end, we looked at several different drafts, and we felt that this was the most consistent and best value in the end. And that's what we're presenting. So as far as the 2 weeks, I think there were pros and cons to it, but in the end, we all collectively decided this was the way to go.
Anybody have any questions, or should we go right on to a motion? Okay, I'm going to go on. Ms. Malconi, go ahead.
I also had some community members ask about how late the school year is potentially ending, that there are real conflicts with camps and other plans at that point of June.
So unfortunately, there really is nothing, and we were very mindful of that because we heard some of the same concerns last year. You know, with this whole process, there's so many different moving parts to it. Some of it has to do with waiting for Nassau BOCES and what their calendar looks like, because we, to the best of our ability, want to align much of what we have because they provide many services to our students. And in the end, whether we start before Labor Day, after Labor Day, there's so many different variations, but it's very challenging to not end when we end at the end of the year. But we very mindful of that. I've had several parents reach out to me as well. But that's really, in essence, the best that we can do at this point.
Dr. Hines, doesn't it also depend on the region schedule when we end?
Thank you for, yes, Ms. Bays, you are 100% correct.
I do want to just make a comment. I appreciate that we added this year the actual holidays as opposed to just putting day off, because I do appreciate that we recognize our diversity and all of the different holidays that we do celebrate in our schools. So I appreciate that. Being Greek Orthodox, I'm going to start standing over there at the podium and I'm going to be asking for Greek Easter. We're just pointing that out.
Great. So I'd like to make a motion. Yes, you can.
We know we don't have the BOCES calendar in front of us. Is this the same start date on the BOCES calendar and the same end date? And is this what our neighboring districts are doing in terms of the number of weeks for December and the start date and the end date?
So the end date, I believe, are all the same, I believe. As far as the start date, there is variance among school districts. We know Jericho starts in, I think, July 3rd. No, I'm just kidding. They start very, very early. But we have some that start, yeah, so there's variance. I think with what we came up with as far as the beginning, again, we had so many different iterations, and we had to look at all the different ways it meshes together, and we really felt that this was the most balanced out of all the different drafts that we had. So I could almost guarantee you, if you look at some school districts to the south, and maybe even certainly in Suffolk County, you're going to see some different start dates. But the end date, I think, relatively ends the same.
New York City is the 26th, for what it's worth. It's one day off, so it's very close. And we're matching them on the winter recess.
I mean, I suspect, look, I know when you do the calendar, it's very hard to please everybody, right? Everybody has different things. I think almost everybody is aligned on not liking starting before Labor Day. So I don't anticipate you getting any complaints about that. I was really more asking at the end date because I think, look, it's hard to anticipate things, but I think some of the issues that parents have raised with me about December break, you know, and parents have emailed us as a board, is whether or not there'll be a lot of absenteeism for those straggler 2 days that we have. And I think it's the same concern with the end of the year if, you know, everything else starts earlier elsewhere. And so if students are due somewhere else, like a camp, are they going to be missing the end of school for it? We also don't actually have the region schedule yet for that year, right? But it's based on the BOCES count.
I'm pretty sure I saw a region schedule.
For 2025?
Yeah. Coming up, yeah. It's out. I think we were, I'm pretty sure.
So I guess the answer from you is you really think this is the best that you can do, even though parts of it are not ideal?
But it's such a challenge because I understand where some parents and even board members certainly are coming from.
And probably our teachers.
Probably some of our teachers and administrators for that matter, for sure. But in the end, when we looked at everything in its totality, we feel this is the best draft.
I also want to point out, by the way, again, I'm just going to be the positive person here, that this is the earliest, one of the earliest times that we've gotten the calendar out. So in planning, despite the fact that we may have a later than wanted end date or the break not being as long as we may have wanted it to be, I think this gives us, our parents, the ability to make and our administrators and our staff the ability to make decisions on what their plans are a little bit earlier than later. So I thank you again for that.
Agreed. So on that note, let's get this approved, and hopefully we can have Shannon blast this out to the school community even tomorrow. Sure. So I'd like to make a motion to approve the 24-25 school calendar. That's item 15.1 on our agenda. Second, Ms. Bays, all in favor? 7-0. So the calendar is approved. Moving on to old business. We do not have any coming from the last meeting that we're carrying forward. So we will move on to new business. Does any trustee want to bring up new business? And if not, I will go to our second opportunity for community comments. So, Jessica, I assume there's no one else on the list. It's just you?
No, it's just me.
Okay.
Don't worry about
Jessica
it.
Milani, go ahead.
Thank you, Jessica Milani. With respect to the 2024-2025 calendar, this is really just a question for the next meeting. Can the board please, or Dr. Hines, please speak to the change to elementary parent-teacher conferences? It's notable that spring conferences have shifted to one full day of virtual conferences. I'm wondering if parents who may, full-time working parents who may not have desk jobs where they can easily dial into a virtual conference will have opportunity to schedule evening conferences or opportunity for another shot at a conference. And also philosophically, just some discussion around that change, because I know for some parents it really is helpful to be in the space and see the child's work and feel it kind of tactically. So just some questions for the board and Dr. Hines for consideration. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any further speakers? No? Okay. Looks like we might be ending in record time tonight. So we're not going to be recessing to executive session. So Dr. Block, do you want to make a motion?
I'm still considering.
Yeah.
Strongly considering.
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second it. All in favor? 7-0. So we're adjourned 9:24.
Next meeting's on the 30th.
Yes, and our next meeting is on the 30th right here in the auditorium. Thank you very much, and Happy New Year to everybody.